On this episode of AMC Movie Talk, John and the panel discussed Oscar chances for The Hobbit, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Batman, exciting X-Men casting news, and a whole lot more. So hang tight, AMC Movie Talk starts right now.
Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. This is episode number 26, originally recorded on Thursday, November the 29th at the beautiful AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. Oscars for Hobbits. Thanks so much for joining us, folks. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Greetings, salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. As always, I'm your host. My name is John Campia. I'm the senior editor of AMC Movie News. And welcome back from your Thanksgiving break. And we hope you had safe travels for whatever you did over your Thanksgiving break. Joining me, as always, first of all, sitting to my immediate right, associate editor of AMC Movie News, Miss Amirose Eisenbach. Amy Rose.
Good morning.
Sitting beside Amy Rose, of course, he is a director, producer, a writer, an editor, all things to all people, a man of the people, Mr. John Schnepp. John?
What's up? Hey, what's going on?
Sitting at the back table there, she's Miss Suri Serrano.
Hi, everybody.
And, of course, the Wizard of Oz sitting behind the curtain who makes everything run over here is Mr. Dennis Zen.
Hello.
And we are going to start off this episode of AMC Movie Talk the way we do with every episode of AMC Movie Talk by getting you caught up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news with your news flash. As most of you know, the Marvel film that will lead directly into the Avengers 2 is the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy, which will be directed by James Gunn. Well, the search for the lead character in the movie, Star-Lord, aka Peter Quill, is apparently well underway. It's being reported that actors such as Joel Edgerton, who was just awesome in Warrior and everything else he does, Jim Sturgis, Jack Huston, Lee Pace, have already auditioned for the role, with more to come. Personally, I'm still holding out hope that the role will go to Nathan Fillion.
Rocker-turned-actor Lenny Kravitz has just signed on to play legendary R&B singer Marvin Gaye in a biopic set for production next year. Kravitz recently started his acting career in films such as Precious and the very successful The Hunger Games. Julian Temple will be directing the currently untitled film, whose credits include 1980s music videos such as David Bowie, What's Up, and Duran Duran, and other rock biopics.
Hungry like the wolf.
Such as the Sex Pistols' The Great Rock and Roll Swindle.
Unconfirmed reports surfaced a few days ago that actor Joseph Gordon-Levitt would reprise his role from The Dark Knight Rises and would become your new Batman for both the upcoming Justice League movie and future Batman films. Yesterday, Levitt's representatives denied the rumors, but of course, a rep must deny any rumors before the studio decides it's time to make an official announcement. Remember when Guillermo del Toro's reps denied his involvement with The Hobbit just 3 weeks before they officially announced he was going to direct The Hobbit? So the rumor may be true, the rumor may be false. All we know for sure is that a rep's denial means about as much as my claim to be carrying on a secret torrid love affair with Olivia Wilde.
Oh, yeah.
I did hear that, too.
I heard about
It's
that.
true, 100%.
A week ago, it was announced that Michael Arndt would pen Star Wars Episode 7, and the writers Lawrence Kasdan and Simon Kinberg would write scripts for Star Wars Episode 8 and 9. Kasdan was one of the writers of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, of course, and Kinberg wrote the upcoming X-Men Days of Future Past. Now, it's being reported that the duo may not be writing the scripts for Episode 8 and 9 after all, but they were instead brought on to write separate projects that could potentially be spin-off films about characters from the Star Wars franchise.
Speaking of X-Men Days of Future Past, great news, X-Men fans. Director Bryan Singer, who directed the first 2 amazing X-Men films, is directing, and is also directing the Days of Future Past, tweeted that both Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart would be reprising their roles as Magneto and Professor X alongside their younger versions played by James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. In the sequel to X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past is set to hit AMC Theatres everywhere July 14th, 2014.
The upcoming Superman movie, Man of Steel, opens in AMC Theatres this coming June 14th, and one of the major questions surrounding the film is, does Man of Steel lead into or set the stage for a Justice League movie? Well, director Zack Snyder was recently asked that question and gave a little hint that it does. Here's what he said. How can I answer that? I can't really say anything to that because that's a big spoiler. I will say, yeah, they trust me to keep them on course.
On course. Party on, Garth! It appears we are one step closer to a Wayne's World 3. A lot of fans started speculating that a Wayne's World 3 could be coming when Mike Myers and Dana Carvey made an appearance on Saturday Night Live last year as their characters. Well, it's now been reported that Mike Myers has not only been working on a script, but has indeed now finished a Wayne's World 3 script. No word yet on green lights or production dates. We'll keep you updated as we learn more.
The well-documented indiscretion between Snow White and the Huntsman star Kristen Stewart and the married director Rupert Sanders left some people wondering if the studio would have Stewart return for the sequel or not. Well, just days after the latest Twilight film made $141 million on its opening weekend, they announced that Stewart would indeed be returning to reprise her role as Snow White, but that director Sanders would not, due to scheduling conflicts.
Indiscretion? 141 million? What indiscretion? And that will do it for your news flash. Hey folks, listen, we just want to hit pause just for a second here. Stop what you're doing. Before we go any further in the show, we have a lot of things to cover. We want to remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see the little button pop up there. Just click subscribe. Chances are you're watching us on YouTube already. If not, go to our YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/AMC Theatres, and just find the little subscribe button or click the button you see on your screen right now. We'll wait for you to do it. Go ahead. You clicking? Just click it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay up to date on all the movie news, our editorials, and of course the AMC Movie Talk show. And we thank you for subscribing and for your support. All right, we got a few things to go into specifically here. Some of the topics we've already mentioned actually in our news flash. But the first thing I wanted to bring up here was this. Around this time of year, we're starting to get close to Oscar season. People are now starting to talk concretely about nominations and things like that, which films could get nominated. And there are a couple of major award seasons writers who I trust and I like to visit. And so yesterday was the first time I really went to start looking at their predictions. And none of them are predicting winners yet, per se, but they're predicting who's going to be nominated here and there. And now, obviously, on everybody's list is Argo. On most people's lists is Les Mis. There are a few films Lincoln is on a lot of people's lists. Really conspicuous by its absence from all of their lists of potential films that could be nominated for Best Picture is my number one most anticipated film of the year, opening in AMC Theatres everywhere in like 2 weeks, The Hobbit. The Hobbit is not on any of these people's lists.
Very odd.
Let me throw some numbers at you here. This is odd for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Lord of the Rings films, the first three, Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, The Return of the King, collectively have 30 Oscar nominations, 17 Oscar wins. The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King by itself tied the all-time record for most Oscars for a single picture with 11,
wow, including
Best Screenplay, Best Director, and obviously Best Picture. All three of the Lord of the Rings films were nominated for Best Picture. We have Peter Jackson returning, supervising and writing the script. Obviously, Guillermo del Toro was going to direct it, but now, because of scheduling conflicts, he had to step out. Peter Jackson is returning to direct them. The trailers look fantastic. And nobody is considering that this one could get a Best Picture nomination. Now, these people haven't seen the film yet. So let me start with you, Amirose. Why, with this track record, with this history, with all the success that it's had, are people not assuming, now granted, assuming is a dangerous thing either way, but we're all assuming what will be nominated anyway. Why is The Hobbit not on more people's list for a possible Best Picture nomination, do you think?
It is odd. I mean, I would speculate that perhaps the reason is, all the materials and the production, Peter Jackson released a 14-minute blog of production and all these things that have been surfacing. A lot of comments seem to say that, it feels exactly like The Lord of the Rings. So maybe redundancy is the reason. I'm ecstatic for it. It would definitely be in my top 5 most anticipated films, no question. And I think that once people see it in a couple weeks, that might change because Peter Jackson is so good at this world.
Right.
But that's probably one of the reasons, redundancy. I mean, the posters are so similar and just the whole, everything, all the marketing material surrounding it. So maybe that's why people are not as, buzzing about it.
John, what do you think?
I think you hit on something really smart. I mean, you have to go back to the Shire, get a Frodo guy from the past to do something, but not as big. It's not the end of the world with the ring. It's, save some trolls and dwarves and stuff. So it's like, it's hard to say. I mean, when it comes out, it could change a lot of people's opinions, and then all of a sudden it'll get nominated. I'm sure it'll get nominated for effects, for makeup, for costumes. I mean, I'm sure that's just a gimme right there. The first trilogy didn't win until the third one.
Right.
That actually took the Oscar. So, I mean, that could be the same setup with this. I mean, maybe the first one won't get actually Best Picture or Best Screenplay, and it'll get a bunch of other awards. Second one, maybe some more, and then the third one, if it is just incredible, then that'll happen. But it's kind of hard also to say without seeing it. Like in my head, it's not in my head at all. Like I'm anticipating seeing that and seeing that 9-minute Star Trek segment in IMAX and seeing all the cool trailers like Pacific Rim. So like that to me is like going to be an ultimate movie night.
Yeah.
But above and beyond that, I'm not even thinking about the Oscars because in my head, like my mind, Argo, right, for me.
Yeah.
I think you brought something up interesting though, because people before they saw Lincoln knew that was an Oscar contender. So it's very interesting. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis is always amazing, Spielberg, but like some movies are like a given. Like we know why you're releasing it around this time, and I do still think it's interesting that there's no buzz around this because some movies are just a shoo-in, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely crazy. I mean, you mentioned the redundancy thing, and that's not something I'd considered. But I mean, Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, Return of the King,
so good.
All the same world, the same feel, because it's one story. Now we're going back, and so of course it has to be the same feel. I think a lot of fans would be really upset if it was not the same feel and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? The funny thing to me is we got our Lincolns, we got our Argos. There's not a lot of slam dunks this year. A lot of very good films this year, but not a lot of real lock slam dunks. And it does befuddle me a little bit that The Hobbit would not get the benefit of the doubt and think, hey, this is probably going to get a Best Picture nomination, especially when I see some of the films that are on certain lists. I mean, we're far enough out now from Flight, I think, that I can say I thought Flight was a terrible movie, and I see it on a lot of people's lists as one of the, could probably get nominated for Best Picture.
I haven't seen it either.
I thought it was just a terrible film. Denzel Washington, brilliant as always. He's fantastic in it, but I don't think his best performance. And I go back and I remember that Oscars, because Oscars are like my favorite time of year.
Me too.
And watching that Oscars the year of Return of the King, and I think it's the first time, somebody's going to have to correct me. If I'm wrong about this, leave a comment for us and let me know if I'm wrong. I think it's the first time that a film had like more than 5 or 6 nominations where it won in every category it was nominated for. It was nominated for 11 different Oscars. It won all 11. The only Oscars it didn't win and weren't even nominated in were the acting categories. No nominations for lead or supporting actor, no nomination for lead supporting actress. Aside from that, every major award
I remember like
went
being bored, like, okay, we get it, Lord of the Rings again. Like they just kept going up and up.
Yeah, they didn't even announce it. It won an Oscar for the best 7 endings in one movie. And then they were like,
7,
you know what?
like
it had
20.
7 endings, and then the extended editions, there were 40. And I was just thinking, like, once The Hobbit comes out and the extended editions of that, like in 4 years, we're going to be like 2 days in the theater.
So
like,
good.
My butt hurts. Like 48 hours of Hobbit land.
So good. Maybe it also has to do with the fact that, it was one book stretched into 3 films. So maybe a lot of people think that it's going to be a lot of fluff.
Do you think it's going to be diluted? They think it might be diluted a bit?
Yeah.
Here's another possibility. Peter Jackson. Is it possible? Now, look, I thought I was really wanting Guillermo del Toro to direct this. I thought
so great.
He would have brought such an interesting twist. Working with Peter Jackson, thought it was interesting. But aside from that, man, how better could you hope for than have Peter Jackson himself returning to it? But that being said, is there a possibility that King Kong and the Lovely Bones may have dampened some people's outlook on The Hobbit? Because King Kong, I think, showed that Peter Jackson needed to learn how to go back to the editing room. That movie was an hour too long.
Yeah.
And they had an extended edition of that.
I know.
I never saw it. I thought I saw it.
And for me, The Lovely Bones, while a fine film, was not special to me. It never got me. It never made me feel that sense of outrage and horror and dread and all that kind of stuff, or wonder that you kind of got the feeling the script wanted you to feel. Do you think, is it possible those 2 films have kind of hampered the Peter Jackson enthusiasm? That's why they're not doing this? Or do you think that's stretching it?
I think that might be stretching a little bit. I think people are wait and see with that. I mean, until they actually see it. And you know what? I mean, he probably has a very valid reason to turn it into 3 films, because they did take all these appendices and like put all this extra stuff in there.
Yes.
So it's jam-packed. I mean, it's jam-packed with stuff that's not in the book.
Yeah.
and it's also retrofitted into the Lord of the Rings mythos. So,
and he's so good at that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, and Guillermo had over 2 years of his life invested in that film. He did development with all the swords, the characters. He co-wrote the screenplay, so his imprint is on that.
Yeah, you're going to see his fingerprints there.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's going to be a great opening shot for a trilogy. You know, it's like, and I don't think it's going to be like, what? Why did it just end in the middle of somebody's sentence? You know, the credits start.
He doesn't do that.
I think it's they made that decision because they were like, we're hurting the film by trying to cram all this cool stuff into 2 movies, and even if we did extended editions, we still have way too much cool stuff.
You know, it did surprise me. We mentioned this on the show before, so I don't get into it too much, but I remember thinking, okay, they're splitting into 3 films. Is it possible we could see a 2-hour Peter Jackson movie?
Yeah.
No such luck. I mean, this Hobbit is going to be, I think it was 2 hours and 42 minutes.
Sounds about
and
right.
They're making, and that's after they decided to split it into 3. So I am so stoked for this movie.
Me too.
From the beginning of the year, you know, quite often you at the beginning of the year you have your most anticipated films, but that changes by the end. From start wire to wire for me, it's been The Hobbit.
Oh yeah.
The Les Miserables, a close second.
Real quick on The Lovely Bones, Stanley Tucci, that was like the performance of a lifetime. Like he was so creepy and perfect for that role. There were definitely moments of that movie I thought were good, but overall, I think it's always dangerous to come from a book like that that's so rich and bring it to the screen. A lot of the times it doesn't work, but his performance, I mean,
but point me to one subpar Stanley Tucci performance.
I can't.
I mean, you can't, right?
Even in Hunger Games, he's
even
fantastic.
in Hunger Games, that's what I'm most interested in.
He's awesome in Hunger Games.
He's great.
Yeah, he is.
And he turns to the camera and smiles. It's so good.
He's so good.
He's so
And you know
good.
what? He doesn't get enough credit. I'm going off
doesn't.
a wild rabbit trail, but he doesn't get enough credit in general, and he doesn't get enough credit for, oh my gosh, the name of the French cooking movie he just did with Amy Adams and Meryl Streep.
Julia and Julia.
Julia
and Julia.
That he was brilliant.
He
in
was.
That. He was absolutely brilliant in that. Anyway, time for us to move on to topic number 2. A few days ago, it was at least the first place I saw it broke was a very respected online film journalist by the name of Drew McWeeny over at HitFix. Broke the story that his sources were telling him that Warner Brothers has selected Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who of course is in The Dark Knight Rises. You know, is the guy that kind of Batman hands the keys to the cave off to at the end.
Who knew his identity from
mean
one
Robin?
encounter.
From one encounter.
Robin.
It said that Warner Brothers has decided that he's going to be the new Batman and will have his own Batman films and will be Batman in the Justice League. Now, assuming, of course, that means not Bruce Wayne, but I forget the character's name in the films.
Robin.
Well, yeah, we find out at the end that's his official legal name, but something
Tommy Blake or something like that.
Yeah, it was something Blake.
Yeah.
That's it.
They didn't want to use Drake. They didn't want to use.
They just throw it at the end. Thanks, Robin. You should go by your real name.
Which I mean, I told everybody that was not suggesting that he was Robin.
Nightwing.
Or Nightwing. That he was going to be the new Batman or whatever.
Because it's not about a person.
No.
It's about a legend.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not about Bruce Wayne. It's about the idea.
You don't have to be able to beat people up.
No.
You
don't have to have millions
you can be
of dollars
5'8",
and be
165
super rich and have
pounds.
armor and all this
Kick-Ass
other
does
stuff.
it. Come on.
Yeah. Batman is just like Kick-Ass is what he's trying to say. That's what Nolan's saying. So.
Now, of course, that still, no matter how reputable the source, I mean, without official word from the studios, you got to qualify that as rumor. Now, that being said, yesterday, as we mentioned in the news flash, a representative of Joseph Gordon-Levitt came out and refuted the rumor, said, no, this is not true. Which got a lot of people saying, oh, well, then there you go. It's not true.
Right.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's representative denied it.
It means nothing.
Now, a couple things to keep in mind. I remember standing face to face with Bradley Cooper's rep no more than about 4 days before the official announcement came out, denying that Bradley Cooper was going to be face in the A-Team movie. Like 4 days later, the official announcement, Bradley Cooper facing A-Team. Guillermo del Toro, we mentioned, his reps denied his involvement in The Hobbit. Then a few weeks later, it was officially announced that he was going to be directing The Hobbit. Going right back to The Dark Knight Rises, the actress who played Talia, Gauthier,
Yes.
Yeah.
denied that her character was going to be Talia al
I'm not
Ghul.
Talia. And then,
Then boom, I'm telling you. So
Stabbo.
Stabbo. Oh, look. I'm risking something here because it's very not safe for work and it's very R-rated. But Dennis Zen pointed out to me the other day this little video on, I believe is it on Funny or Die or is it on College Humor?
College Humor.
From College Humor, reenacting that scene where Talia stabs Batman.
Right.
One of the funniest things I've seen all year. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. We cannot put it in the show here because it's not safe for work, but I'll put a link to it in there because Dennis pointed it out to me. It just made me howl. But look, I want to point something out here. All I'm saying is this rumor about Joseph Gordon-Levitt being in Batman, it could be true. It could be false. But certainly the rep denying it means nothing. It means nothing because the rep is supposed to deny it. Until the studio comes out and says, makes it official themselves, a rep can't usurp the studio and say, yep, it's true, and then have Warner Brother go, oh, we're going to crush you like an ant.
Didn't remember signing that 500-page contract? Yes. The one formerly known as Moriarty is speaking the truth.
Yeah.
I know it's Levitt, so everyone just roll,
I mean, Levitt himself has kind of hinted in interviews and stuff like that that he was going to be continuing
Snyder
on.
is hinting. Snyder's hinting he's going to be directing the Justice League,
or at least hinting that Superman is going to kind of be fit in the world of the Justice League.
Makes sense. I mean, wouldn't the dumbest thing would be like, here, do a new Superman, do a new Batman, and then all of a sudden you're opening up all but this is on Earth H. And like, oh, what is this headache? The Crisis on Infinite Movies. You're like, Splinterville.
Remember, that's what Warner Brothers was going to do 5 years ago.
I know, but back then it sounded like an okay idea because all
of
the
DC.
Didn't. No, to me it did because all the DC movies were kind of sucking. So
right.
It's like, yo, just throw a bunch of them, do a bunch of them. Maybe one will be good.
Maybe
Marvel was killing it,
and
it's still killing it. So DC has to catch up a little bit, in a big way.
Yeah.
Dennis, let me ask you this. Okay, so let's say for a second, let's assume for a moment that Joseph Gordon-Levitt is going to be Batman. Let's assume that for a second. Even though it's not confirmed, might not be true, but let's assume it is. Do you like the idea?
I'm kind of with you, John. Like, I think he doesn't fit the role. I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but I don't think he fits the role of who Batman is. I know they wanted to go younger, but I wanted Joseph Gordon-Levitt for Spider-Man, for Peter Parker. I think his persona.
Oh, I never even thought about that. That's great.
So, yeah, I mean, I love him. I'll watch it if he's in it, but I don't think he fits the role.
How about you, Suri, back there? Like, if Joseph Gordon-Levitt, could you see Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Batman?
Not so much.
No, it doesn't quite fit?
Not so much, but I'll go see it.
Guys, you're going to see it in 2 years, so just get used to it.
Yeah, see, like, to me, here's the thing. I can't overemphasize my... my bromance with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's a one-sided bromance, granted. He doesn't know I exist.
Until now.
Until now. But I think he's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the argument I've had with a lot of people in the last couple of days. I said this in our special report, which if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you would have seen our special report. Click. I mentioned this before. Look at any picture of Batman, which Dennis will have come up right now. Take a look at this picture of Batman. Any rendition of Batman in the past 20, 30 years, Batman is the epitome of human physical perfection. He's 6 foot whatever. He is, 280 pounds. He's giant. Now, granted, I understand. Michael Keaton was a small guy.
I was just going to say
and that movie was fine. Great. But you know what? No disrespect to the Tim Burton Batman system. That's not Batman. That movie Batman with Michael Keaton, very special. I enjoyed it. I love it. But still in my head, there's a separation that wasn't Batman.
How about Clooney?
Oh, Clooney. I always said this, Clooney. Well, I think he could have been a great Batman, but let's just move on.
Clooney Kilmer.
But then, Christian Bale is a smaller guy, Yes,
ripped.
but he, at least in the first one, you could tell he made an attempt to get bulked up. I still would have liked to see him bitter because that's an essential part of who Batman is. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, as infinitely talented as he is, and I'll give it a shot. I mean, if he's it, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and give it a shot. I'm just saying my initial reaction is a 5'8.5", 165-pound guy is not Batman. That is not Batman. And then some people try to get online with me and say, oh, well, have you ever heard of a gym? I'm sorry, a guy can't put on 40 pounds of muscle in 3 inches in a year and a half. Not on the best steroids money can buy. Can you do that? I just don't see it. And more to the point, I don't understand. Some people say, well, Batman Beyond is a different guy as Batman. Yeah, that's set in the year, 2070, whatever. You can't start a Justice League franchise with a Batman who was not Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, no.
Like, so you got two
shouldn't.
issues here. The performer, who I think is just too physically small to play this role, and the character itself has got to be Bruce Wayne. And if that means, look, Christopher Nolan always intended his Batman franchise to be done, closed, locked up, and put away when he was done with it.
Like a classy guy.
So move on with the DC universe. The Batman franchise is done. Nolan's Batman universe is finished. Leave it as he left it, and have Bruce Wayne as Batman and somebody who's bigger than 5'8", 165 pounds.
Well, I'll counterpoint that and say, like, Superman is being produced by Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
It's being written by his brother.
Yes.
And it's going to have that same kind of, like, epic flavor that,
sure hope so.
That,
Yes.
that the Batman Begins had, this Superman Man of Steel will have, and it also introduced the idea of magic, which, because, the whole Batman trilogy was basically guns and armor.
Yes.
And Superman, you have a dude who's an alien who can fly and has laser eyes, and he's going to be fighting aliens. So that's a whole other thing that kind of conflicts with the reality, real life. So it's a good intro, though, I think, to building up on Justice League. And you have Justice League. I was looking at some of those characters last week, and I was like, I honestly can't even see like a Justice League movie done in the, whatever Snyder Nolan universe with all those characters. I can only see it like with maybe 4 characters, where it'll be like, if it's Batman and it's Superman, it might be Green Lantern and it might be the Flash, or it might be Green Lantern and Wonder Woman.
Definitely Wonder Woman.
But I
They'll
can't
throw
see
chick in
John
the mix.
Johns and Martian Manhunter and all these other flippy, I'm Elastic Dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not going to.
And they shouldn't. It will become diluted
So
as
if you have
well.
like 4 people, or like, and it has to be a giant threat to even introduce. They've already introduced Green Lantern. Granted, it was like kind of a stinky film.
Yeah, that didn't count.
But you can still use Ryan Reynolds. Why not?
I agree.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's great.
I think it's sort of like, instead, Avengers did it. They had the Hulk with, the Hulk, 2 different Hulk movies that worked somewhat okay, but then they cast a 3rd Hulk.
Right.
In the Avengers, and said, oh, those other movies did happen. Well, maybe not the Ang Lee one, but
Yeah, the last one happened.
The last one happened. They
I
had
loved
footage of it
Mark
embedded
Ruffalo.
into the movie. Yeah.
I thought he was great.
So,
You just reminded me of something. The one of the greatest graphic novels of all time, The Dark Knight Returns. I bought the sequel to it a few years ago, which was
so sorry.
I know, but which was it?
It was called The Dark Knight Returns. No, the first one was called The Dark Knight Returns. The second one was
Strikes Again.
Strikes Again.
Okay.
Wow, and with Photoshop, horrible.
But I do remember there were a couple of moments in that thing, and you just mentioned was his name Plastic Man?
Yes.
Okay.
Plastic Man.
Who always just seen as this really silly whatever. But I remember this one great frame where Bruce Wayne as Batman is breaking Plastic Man out because he needs him, and he just says something in his own thought bubble, which is something along the lines of this: "I'm taking a risk letting him out. He could kill me in a second. He could kill all of us in a second." It's like, in the midst of this really silly, ridiculous Plastic Man character, you forget there may be Superman and then him. Like, it might be Superman and then Plastic Man. Like, you forget how powerful that dude
Right.
is. But anyway, that's off on another topic altogether.
So let's have Plastic Man in the Justice League. Is what John Campea is saying right now, guys. He is starting a campaign today. Plastic Man.
Yes.
Justice League.
Pauly
2015.
Shore playing Plastic Man.
Pee Wee
man.
Herman. Plastic Man.
Yes.
That would be
Okay.
amazing.
That's
Make it with
gold.
those sunglasses
Yeah.
on. Make it happen.
And then he fights the Impossible Man from Marvel Universe, the little green dude.
Now we're getting feisty.
Warner Brothers, please just send us an address where to send our invoice for our creative consulting here. All right, let's move on to topic number 3 here. X-Men First Class, universally loved.
my
Such a good
fave.
film. And Michael Fassbender as a Magneto, inspired.
Perfect.
Amazing.
Absolutely
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
And I love the way that movie picked up the beginning of Bryan Singer's X-Men film with the concentration
Yeah.
camp, and then stretched that
so
into its
good.
own narrative. I mean, so
Incredible.
well
Kevin
done.
Bacon as Shaw. I was so good too. Like everyone in that film was so
Magneto
good.
hunting Nazis.
Oh,
Awesome.
So good.
so good. Now, of course, then they're doing the sequel, X-Men: Days of Future Past, and of course, we found out about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, that we've known for some time that Matthew Vaughn, who was supposed to direct the sequel, stepped away. Bryan Singer, who directed the first 2 X-Men films, was a producer on X-Men First Class, and Bryan Singer is now back in the director's chair, which I think is fantastic
Me too.
news. I would have loved it if Matthew Vaughn was still directing it, but I love it equally as much, maybe even a little bit more, that Bryan Singer's returning to the X universe. And then he got on Twitter the other day And first he sent out this one tweet that said, hey, really excited to welcome back James McAvoy, Jennifer Lawrence, Michael Fassbender into X-Men First Class. Okay, so we knew they were going to be back. But then 2 minutes later, he puts out another tweet that basically announces, oh, and by the way, I'm paraphrasing, Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart are coming back too.
Yes.
I'm like, you know that Galaxy S3 commercial where the guy's mocking the iPhone and goes, the headphone jack is going to be on the bottom. That's me. When I read Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart are back, mind blown.
Mine too.
To see Ian McKellen, I've got these fantasies dancing in my head of Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender side by side in Magneto helmets, ripping crap up.
Wow.
Then, no, granted, it's probably going to be small.
Right.
Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, I'm just guessing. I don't know, but I'm guessing it's probably going to be small roles. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But I'm a geek, so I get ahead of myself. And I'm just picturing Michael Fassbender and Ian McKellen both in Magneto outfits in like downtown Los Angeles, tearing the city apart. And like James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart just coming in with some X-Men triumphs, and I'm losing my mind.
I'm seeing Ian McKellen in his Hobbit outfit, and then Jean-Luc Picard like beam me up with like rescuing. It's all this super crossover parallel, like 5 different worlds combined. You know, that'd be pretty awesome.
Losing my anyway. Your reactions to I'm sure I'm a little overexcited about it. But
no,
anyway,
you're not.
Your guys' reactions
I'm right
to
there
this?
with you. I mean, I've discussed many times on the show, X-Men is my favorite comic book franchise ever. I adore it. Even number 3, which was so bad, Last Stand, I still liked because I love the freaking universe so much. So the news of this is awesome. And the fact that we get the original cast, which I thought did a fantastic job, and, you know, watching the whole evolution, the way it ended on the beach, the last movie, and like, yeah, how you find out just the backstories is so fascinating. So the fact that they're bringing the 2 gangsters back in this film
the Godfathers
makes
back,
me so happy. And then news just hit today that Hugh Jackman might appear as Wolverine again, which
right. Well, let's get into that in a second.
Yeah.
But anyway, John, your reaction to this news?
I was super happy because I mean, Days of Future Past, the X-Men original, Claremont Burns story. You have to be able to go back and forth, and they're going to weave these 2 like separate timelines together now. I think.
I hope so.
In a really cool way. Them announcing Hugh Jackman because he's in both films definitely will, and he's like him and Kitty Pryde. They have to bring back Kitty Pryde, and they have to bring back Halle Berry. I think they're going to have to bring back what's the actress's name who's in True Blood now? Who was?
She was Rogue.
Who played Rogue?
Anna Paquin.
Anna Paquin.
They're going to have to bring her back. So I seriously hope they do. You know.
Yeah, I don't know if the phrase "have to" applies here. I think they have a lot of. They absolutely. Yeah, I agree. That would be really nice for them to do that. Let's go into the Wolverine thing here for a second because news broke that Hugh Jackman is in talks to join X-Men: Days of Future Past. But one of the things Amy Rose and I were talking beforehand. One of the things I pointed out was, well, here's the deal. The script for X-Men Days of Future Past is done. It's either got Wolverine or it doesn't. I mean, it either does or it doesn't. If you got Wolverine, it has to be Hugh Jackman, and he is in it. The fact that at this point he's in talks to appear, what that suggests to me is we're going to see something closer to his appearance in X-Men First Class than we will to him being a central character like he was in the original X-Men
Which was
films.
awesome. That bar scene was awesome.
Oh, the opening bar scene was great. But the concept, like, look, they're already well into pre-production. The script is late. They can't now weave in and suddenly say, hey, let's just add Wolverine and make him a major character. Can't be done at this point, can it, John?
I think it can. I think they never announced that Hugh Jackman was any part of First Class. It was just a secret appearance. I remember seeing like, oh, he was on set for a minute. I was just saying hi, and then you see him in the movie. So they're announcing that they're going to sign him on, just like they're announcing Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart. So that what they're doing is saying he's going to be in it, and all these actors sharing screen time, how big of a role he's going to have. I think he's going to have way more than a walk.
Really? So you think he's going to have not necessarily lead, but you think he's going to have a significant role?
I do.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they wouldn't have bothered to make the announcement that they're going to sign him if he doesn't have like 15 minutes of screen time doing some badass Wolverine stuff. Plus, it only makes sense for him because he's got a Wolverine solo movie coming out.
There's
Yes.
been a lot
And
of
he's been in every
films.
single X-Men movie.
This is his 7th Wolverine role.
Yeah, I wanted to, it's like, yo, dude, make like 7 more before you can't be doing the jumpies.
Because
Lucky number 7.
he's the one guy who could be himself in the modern present
Yeah.
of X-Men Days of Future Past and in the past of X-Men Days. He could be the same guy.
I think
dressed
he might
the
even
same
be
way.
the guy who weaves it all together. Like when they announced him, I was like, oh, I could see them flashing through timelines, or him being, maybe part of the
With Kitty.
combining structures. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
Cool.
Fascinating.
I
can't
see it as more
wait.
than a cameo. I seriously hope so.
Well, I hope you're right. I really
Bryan
do.
Singer was involved in the story for the First Class movie. He wrote
Yes.
the story, and
Yep.
he was on set as a producer the whole time. So, it's not like he was just like, oh, give me that movie while Matthew Vaughn goes off to do Care Bears or whatever movie Matthew Vaughn's working on.
Turtles underwater.
According to
Ninja Star.
according to Azazel, he's going to be the director of the new Star Wars, but we'll save that for another time. Hey, listen, folks, we're going to take a bit of a break, and we're going to get to your mailbag questions here in just a second. But I wanted to let you know that in a couple weeks, a new Gerard Butler, Jessica Biel film, I believe it's called Playing for Keeps. Am I right, Suri?
You're right.
Is opening in AMC Theatres everywhere. Now, about a week ago, our very own Suri Serrano had a chance to actually go down and sit down and chat with the star of the film, Mr. Gerard Butler, about the new project. So we just want to share that with you now. Check it out. Here's Suri Serrano talking with Gerard Butler about Playing for Keeps.
So what was it like being surrounded by such an incredible cast?
That's what's great about this movie. I mean, you look on the poster and you think, wait a minute, you got Jessica Biel, Uma Thurman, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Judi Greer, Dennis Quaid, and they're on set every day, and I had the same feeling. I'm like, wow, look at this, look who we got for this movie. So it was, it made me very proud that that's who we got to do this. And then on top of that, then you've got the performances on top of this great script. In this hilarious situation, a guy in this town being hunted down by all these women, and then you got Dennis Quaid as well, wanting a piece of you, wanting a buddy, and he's trying to hold his space. So when you have that with such quality actors, you're in heaven.
You had mentioned that you found this character very relatable to yourself. What qualities felt so close to home?
Oh, by the way, not just relatable to myself. I think everybody relates to these situations. It's somebody you're facing a crossroad in your life. Where are you going to go from there? And learning actually how to hold sacred the things that are important in life, despite all the distractions. Whether it be being chased down by women, or whether it be whatever it is, we got to learn how to follow that path, and also learn to be vulnerable and learn to get our priorities straight. And I think that's what's going on with him. And then for me as well, I got a second chance in life. I got a second chance every day. But
I know I was going to ask you if you believe in second chances.
I do. I mean, I was a lawyer before this, and I kind of screwed all that up. And I wasn't happy doing it. Kind of messed it all up, and then did what I always dreamed of doing. And I think this is, the same with George. As his dream really at the end of the day was to find love, to relationships, family. But he just didn't know how to do that. Did he really deserve a second chance? Maybe not, but that's kind of what's beautiful about this.
Why did you want to work with this director so badly?
I've been friends with him for a long time. I loved, his Italian movies are great and hilarious and wacky, and then the depth that he goes into in, say, Pursuit of Happiness or 7 Pounds, he's a master, and he's a fun guy, and he's got a great sense of humor, and his movies have such a cracking pace. Like, this movie never lets up. It takes you. You're laughing, you're crying, you're thinking, then you get the soccer, you got the relationships. It never stops. He has such a cracking pace to his movies, and yet really mines a lot of depth out of the characters. So he was perfect for this.
Right. Well, on a lighter note, did you have any scenes that were really the most fun for you to do? That you got maybe playing soccer?
Oh, the soccer scenes were a lot of fun. The scene when I was trying to hit the crossbar, I mean, that was hilarious because, in actual fact, the day before I was doing it and I'm going, crossbar, crossbar, crossbar. I couldn't believe how often I was hitting the crossbar. Then suddenly there's a crowd there. And I found out after they'd let the balls down a bit, they were giving me kind of flatter balls. And I'm kicking and it's going too low. And I'm not getting it as much as I wanted to. And then I think, and I'd only missed 2. And I step up and I put my back foot and I do this back chip. I hit the crossbar. I wasn't even supposed to do it like that. And it was one of those moments where you go, oh, okay, you know, maybe it's a little shallow, but that's the moment I'll take to the grave because it was a cool moment.
I love it. That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, and we really look forward to having your film on AMC Theater screens.
Oh, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
Once again, Playing for Keeps opens at AMC Theatres soon. Just head on over to AMCtheatres.com to find your tickets for it, or any film, actually, that you might want to go and check out this weekend. Once again, go to AMCtheatres.com and buy your tickets for any film this weekend.
Go see Skyfall.
And Skyfall is definitely one. Skyfall, Twilight, Argo's still out.
Wreck-It Ralph.
Wreck-It Ralph. So many good films right now. Go out and check them out. Well, listen, folks, every single week we dedicate some time in the show to take your questions, where you guys kind of dictate and program the last segment of the show by taking your questions from the mailbag. You can send in your questions to us 24/7 to AMCMovieTalk@gmail.com. Once again, that's AMCMovieTalk@gmail.com, and we will select a couple of the best questions and read them on air. And Suri actually has a bunch of them selected out back there. So, Suri, what do we have?
First up, from Anna S. With this trend of book adaptations that's been happening the past decade, so many of them becoming huge hits such as Twilight, The Hunger Games, and The Lord of the Rings, is there a particular novel or book series that you would love to see come to the big screen?
Good question.
Great question. For me, my answer to that question now is the same answer I've had probably since I was 10. There is a James Clavell novel that goes by the name of Shogun. That was actually a miniseries like 25 years ago. But even as a kid, I loved it. Like, I thought it was so rich. It's about this, Western guy set back hundreds of years whose ship gets lost at sea during a storm, and he washes up in Japan. And, or feudal China. I can't remember which one now.
Right.
Oh, China. And in the midst of the war amongst all the various warlords and the supreme head guy, the shogun. Anyway, it's brilliant. It's awesome. I would highly recommend. I hope they make it into a movie someday. It's rich for a movie adaptation. So I hope that happens. So my pick would be a Shogun. What about you, Amirose?
I'm a big Tom Robbins fan. I think that Still Life with Woodpecker would be the coolest movie ever. The characters are so oddball. It's such an adventure. And the writing is so rich and fantastic. So I think that would be a really good movie.
John, what about you?
I'd say Confederacy of Dunces. I mean, it's an amazing film. I finally went to New Orleans this year and experienced New Orleans for like a week. It's an
Isn't
amazing
it fun?
place. It's incredible.
So fun.
And I think it would be, whoever they get to play the main character, I heard it's, in the latest was Zach Galifianakis, but I don't know if that's going to happen. It just keeps going back and forth in waves of, oh, we're going to make it, we're not going to make it. So I'd like to see that, somebody try to attempt that.
You could flip this and say, what book should not be made into movies? And I would say 50 Shades of Grey. The writing of that was not so great, but it'll be interesting to see what they do
it's
with
happening.
It. Oh, it's happening.
Oh, and I know I've already pleaded for this, and it's not going to happen, but Heir to the Empire series. Make that episode 7, 8, and 9. I know they're not, but I just want to throw that out there.
I think Kazin's doing like a Dengar Bounty Hunter special. Like
Yes.
Dengar one shot.
All right, Suri, what else we got?
Okay, from Jacob B. Skyfall finally arrived in theaters over here in Australia. After seeing it, I thought, what are the realistic chances of Judi Dench getting on an Oscar nomination for her role as M? I thought she was the standout and would absolutely love to have her gain a nomination. What are your thoughts?
John, what about you?
I loved Skyfall. I thought it really redeemed itself from the quantum
solace,
mess. So
It's nice.
Excellent James Bond film. Amazing villain. Wasn't trying to conquer the world. It was completely personal. He didn't have superpowers. I think he should win the Oscar.
Javier is always fantastic.
Yeah, Javier Bardem blew me away, and I was like, when I first heard he was cast as the villain, I was like, really? I was kind of like, oh, because I was going from Quantum, it's like, he's gonna be some super villain or something, and he did an incredible.
He looks so
performance
creepy
with so
too.
much nuance and emotion. like I would say he deserves an Oscar nomination as supporting. Judi Dench did a good job, but you know, I mean, she's been in a lot of other way better films.
Yeah.
So if she gets nominated, it might be a gimme. You know, like, well, for all these other films, here's the culmination.
She is a dame after all. So
yeah, she was in a film last year that I'm spacing out the name, where it was like in India, and it was like a lot of older actors were in it. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, I totally know the one you're talking about now.
Yeah,
we actually had
it up while
So
I'm
like
talking.
Marigold Hotel.
Yeah, we
yeah,
actually
the
have
exotic
we have
Marigold
interviews.
Hotel.
We actually have interviews with the staff, or with the
That
staff,
was
with
an
the
incredible
cast.
movie. She should have been
Yeah.
nominated for that, and I think she was great as M and
yeah,
James Bond.
it's just
and-
not that complicated of a character.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great, but like she won an Academy Award for Queen Elizabeth, right? Look at the role of that compared to this. Even though it was short in that film, I just don't feel like this is a rich enough character. As much she's a very pivotal role, and I love her, and more films in her, great. But like, yeah, I don't think it's really Oscar worthy.
You know what? The funny thing is, the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. A lot of people are predicting Maggie Smith is going to get a nomination this year for that.
I didn't
did that
see.
come out
I
this
didn't
year?
see.
Yeah, that
it
was
this
this
year.
calendar.
Well,
yeah,
then maybe she can get nominated for
It was
that.
very silent.
yeah, I don't see it happening either. When you look at some of the performances that are out there right now this year, I pulled up a couple here. Amy Adams for The Master is getting a lot of people talking.
She was good.
I haven't seen it yet, but Anne Hathaway in Les Mis, I'm going to guess, is probably
It's
going to be
on.
stellar. I
I'm
mean,
so
there's
excited
a
for that
lot of
movie.
these films. Just as a side note, though, I'm going to completely disagree with you about Javier Bardem in Skyfall. I was completely opposite. When I first heard about it, I thought this is the best news ever. And then that opening scene he has with James Bond, where James Bond is handcuffed, and right up to the scene where he's captive in that glass tube. Awesome. To me, his character kind of fell apart after that. But that's just me. I know I've talked to a lot of people who agree with you that he should get a nomination for that film as well. And we will get in the next couple of episodes of our show here into it's almost time for us to get into Oscar predictions and best of the years and things like that. But we will get to that later. Anyway, time for one more question. Sorry, what do we got?
Sure. From Sharon R. Hey guys, love the show. With Eddie Murphy recently having a one night only and rumored to be in triplets, I wondered how you guys felt about the fourth installment to the Beverly Hills Cop series, and which of that three was your favorite? Personally, my favorite has to be 3. Thanks guys. Bring back twice a week or at least 2 hours a show.
Oh, 2 hours of show. Hey, you know what? This would be a good time for me to mention, just because I've been getting lots of emails about this. I am considering, and Amy Rose just heard about this for the first time this morning, but I've gotten a bunch of emails for you guys about a daily show, getting your movie news on a daily basis instead of a weekly, blah, blah, blah. I am considering doing a daily audio-only version of like AMC Movie Talk's News Flash. Every day, probably be about 10 to 15 minutes long. Considering it just because of the requests we've been getting for you guys. If you have a thought on that, if you think that'd be a good idea or bad idea, email us at amcmovietalk@gmail.com and let us know your thoughts about that. As far as Eddie Murphy goes, first of all, let's settle this. There is no Beverly Hills Cop 4. That's not happening. There was, about a year and a half ago, there was some chatter about them maybe getting it going, but then I think of like October of last year, Eddie Murphy himself came out and said, no, it died. It's dead. It's not happening. So there is no Beverly Hills Cop 4. Still, that being said, Beverly Hills Cop franchise is pretty fun.
It's great.
I like the first one the best. That's
Most people do,
Yeah.
actually. I kind of like the second one the best. I don't know why.
I like
Maybe
the
it's
first
because
one the
that whole
best.
idea of returning to these characters.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
That-
the intro usually gets me, just like getting to know him, and he was really funny.
And who's that guy from Perfect Strangers?
Oh, yeah. Pinchot?
Pinchot,
Or,
yeah.
But can we talk about triplets? That would be hilarious.
Okay. Triplets. I mean, for those of you who may not know, when the viewer writes in and mentions triplets, we've talked about it on the show before, but in case you haven't heard, there is legit word that the studio is trying to develop a sequel to Twins called Triplets, where Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito discover that they actually have a third long-lost brother. They're actually triplets, and that third brother is Eddie Murphy.
So good.
I heard they added to
want
that, and now Arnold and Danny DeVito are both pregnant because they're like combining a junior. They're making a junior sequel and a twin sequel, combining it.
That's
triplets.
That's
yeah.
that's gold.
Which
It's
will
gonna
lead
be-
to the Octomom movie,
Yeah,
right?
it's gonna get really creepy on the 5th movie. Everyone explodes. It's a horror film.
Oh my god.
Hey, you know, and
Funny.
while we're talking about Eddie Murphy, can I just throw this out there? One of the movies that is universally kind of accepted as one of his worst ever is actually one that is a guilty of pleasure of
no.
mine. And I know I'm going to get the title wrong. I believe it's called not the Chosen Child, the
Golden Child.
The Golden Child. Thank you. To me, Golden Child is one of my little guilty pleasures. When he's confronted by the news, says, "I must be purged." I eat that movie up. I know it's terrible.
I mean, Coming to America.
Oh, but that's just great.
He was so good. He'll
Trading
never get better
Places,
than that.
the Trading
Trading
Places is my favorite.
Places.
So good.
Bowfinger.
Bowfinger.
Yes.
Oh,
You nailed
so
it.
Yes.
underrated.
Yes.
Bowfinger is my favorite Eddie Murphy movie and Steve Martin movie
That- oh.
combined. It is really.
So
I watch
good.
it once a year and I forget how amazing it is.
I
Until I see
think
it
Dirty
again.
Rotten Scoundrels is still my all-time favorite Steve Martin movie.
Agreed.
But that scene in Bowfinger, it is one of my. I put it together a list a couple of years ago of my top 10, not best comedies of all time, but top 10 funniest moments
Crossing
in films.
the freeway, or which one? Which
No,
scene?
we are going to get the best crew money can buy. Quick edit to them at the border sneaking Mexicans in the back of the van.
So good.
That Bowfinger is such an underappreciated
really is.
Yeah.
treasure of a
Everyone
movie.
It is
who
a
has not
treasure.
seen Bowfinger, go see it.
It's hilarious.
Get it right now.
I mean, but the poster's so odd. Like Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy, it doesn't seem to make sense.
Oh, but it does.
But it's so
It's
good.
got twins in it too. Eddie Murphy, is playing a set of twins.
Oh,
One's
that's
a
right,
stupid
playing his own
dumb action
twin,
actor,
and
then the other his weird brother, who's incredible. He does if you haven't seen it, you have to see it.
Yeah,
And
brilliantly
it's got an
written.
Awesome Terrence Stamp, Kneel Before Zod, little Scientology ode, little homage there. So it's really good.
So good, so good. Anyway, folks, that will do it for us. Listen, just before we sign off, I want to remind you once again, take a moment, pause what you're doing, and click that subscribe button. Subscribe to our AMC Theatres YouTube channel, keeping up to date on all the movie news, our video editorials, and of course the AMC Movie Talk show. Make sure you email us and let us know what you think of us doing like a daily audio thing. Maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Don't forget too, you should follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/AMC Theatres. But you can also become one of our followers on Twitter because we tweet out all of our stuff at AMC Theatres. Once again, I want to thank Amirose Eisenbach for joining us. Mr. John Schnepp.
Yo.
There at the back table, Miss Suri Serrano. Great job, by the way, with your conversation
Thank
with Mr. Gerard. And, of course, the Wizard of Oz over here, Mr. Dennis Zen.
Woo!
Thank you guys for joining us so much. Don't forget, we'll be back here again next week. Go to AMCtheaters.com. Check out a movie this weekend. Lots of great ones out. We'll see you again next Thursday. My name's John Campia for AMC Movie News. Bye-bye.